wọ́n ní n ó joyè ilé san mí. Ẹ káàárọ̀ ńbẹ̀ o. Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me? Babs, I see you. Question is, can you hear me? Don't worry. It's that part where I get to test my mic. So if you are hearing me for the uptime time, thank you very much. Thank you. So we can safely conclude that I have finally found my way around my new equipment, and I can successfully conclude without asking if you hear me or not. I know you are hearing me, and thank you very much for the response, all of you. Welcome to this morning's broadcast and a brand new week. But before we may proceed, I think it's only right that we should speak about the week that was. For the sake of those who are just joining me, or who might be joining me for the first time, I try to take a look at things that has happened in the past week and use these things as a window for you to be able to understand how Nigeria works. Because most of the time we presume normalcy to a country that is manifestly insane. So let me show you one of the ways that Nigeria opened a window into the way it works. I'll start with the person of El-Rufai. I don't like him. I rarely have personal feelings about any one of the ruiners of Nigeria. But in relation to El-Rufai, I particularly do not like the man. He is a man very much at home with impunity. His reign as the minister of the FCT was sufficient to establish his credentials for me. He is a most vile and unpleasant human being. But he's a Nigerian, just like me. And Nigeria has happened to him. The Nigeria he helped to construct, to build, has happened to him. That El-Rufai was a particularly horrible human being as the minister of the FCT was only possible because of the system within which he serves. So he had been a faithful servant of the evil system, deploying the powers of impunity to punish, and has been rumored in the case of Dadiata to make disappear. Whether he is the one, whether he is Ganduje as he would prefer that we all believe, that's up to them. But the important thing is that this man he is a particularly vile human being. So let us be clear, I am not speaking for his person. But when you behold what has happened to him in the last 70 days, as the instrument of justice has been weaponized to punish and victimize a member of the ruining class itself, a card-carrying member, a blue-blooded member of the Nigerian ruining class in the person of El-Rufai was dealt with. The system was deployed to deal with one of its own. So remember, the Yoruba proverb says that the same teeth by which the dog plays with his puppy is the same one by which it bites the puppy. What the Nigerian state is showing, as you can see with El-Rufai, is how it deals with those it does not believe deserving of the courtesy of protection. So let's be clear. What you are saying happening to El-Rufai should not happen to anybody. That is, even if the man has done anything deserving of prosecution, prosecute him by all means. I'll be one of the first to clap at the effort. But what we are witnessing is not prosecution. It is persecution. It is naked, it is brutal, and it is most inhumane. But then I saw a whole lot of innocent persons when I was also hauled into prison for doing nothing deserving of imprisonment. All I did was tell the truth. But we'll come to that at some point in the main body of the lecture itself. But it is instructive to note that since the man honored the invitation of the EFCC, I believe, EFCC, on the 16th of February, 70 days and counting, he has been in one detention or the other, using the instrumentality of the judicial system, the sole exception being when he was released to go and bury his mother in an extrajudicial move, which shows you very clearly that there is nothing about the pursuit of justice in the victimization of that odious human being. Odious as he might be, he is deserving of the respect and protection of the law, and he is not being afforded that. If I do not speak in relation to the maltreatment of a man that I find objectionable, why do I find the moral right to demand protection either for myself or my loved ones? And the same goes for each and every one of you. Much as you may not like the man, what is happening to him is not justice. Justice is trying him based on the evidence, and please, there must be more than sufficient evidence of that man's malfeasance. Nail him using the instrumentality of the law and the truth. This is not justice. This is not justice. Yaya Bello is busy strutting around. At the time when they were dragging me to court in handcuffs for doing nothing, Yaya Bello was strolling into EFCC, strolled into court, got bail immediately. What is happening to El Rufai is not justice. Come to you someday. Note it. It is not justice. I am not saying the man should not be prosecuted. I am not saying that if he has broken laws, it should not be brought down on him. All I am saying is that what is happening to him is not justice. If you normalize that evil because you don't like him, and I don't like him myself, what you end up with is the normalization of evil because you subjectivized the truth. You don't get to decide who is deserving of the protection of the law and who isn't. It's the court that should do that, and the court has failed woefully in doing that in this instance. That was just one of the windows that was opened in the course of that week. And then I began to see some pieces going around online. One of the dead giveaway that I didn't author that piece was where he said, I as a Yoruba man, since when did I begin to define my humanity by my ethnicity? People are telling lies in my name, using the truths I have told in the past. And I am compelled to say this. When you see something put out in my name, pause and think, and then confirm from me. Most of what you see in this season are lies masquerading as truth. If you accept it simply because you like what is expressed in this season, remember a time will come when they will tell lies, append my name to it, and you will not love those lies. What would you be saying then? So let's be clear. There are so many lies flying around. I get that it's election season. I am not ambiguous about speaking my mind as to where I stand. As of today, I know where I'm voting if I'll bother to vote in the coming election, and that is clear to everybody. But if you deify the lies they are putting out there and you ignore my trenchant denial of authorship of those lies, I've seen two in this last week. Don't blame me when they bring the lies that you don't like. It's election season. Be careful. And then I saw another window. It was in Akwa Ibom, and I saw grown men and women being given face cap Maybe it's the ID badge to confirm they were there, and that would be the basis upon which they will collect the wages of their slavery. But I saw them singing for one nice young lady who I was led to believe is Akpabio's daughter. Now, their mama be that, too, and I was baffled. As the weaponized poverty gotten so bad that men have lost everything that should make them human, which is self-respect. 19-year-old girl, you're singing na your mama be that. I saw men who will go home to their children. What kind of country are you building? Which mama you get where they can listen, this shouldn't be. But then that's just another window into how low we are falling as a people. Should I talk about the Oshun herdsmen, the ones who attacked the man's farm? They grazed their cattle on his farm in Osun State. Grazed their cattle on his farm. A fight ensued. Farmers were detained. Elders went home. Farmers were granted bail. Elders said, no, this is not enough. You can't grant them bail. They have to stay at least 48 hours in detention. Elders went back home. Farmers were detained. It took the effort, strenuous effort of lawyers to get them left that evening. Note, both the elder and the farmers were Muslims. Elders, you know where those came from. Farmers, the indigenous. So it's gotten to the point where even in the heartland of Yoruba land, there are now sacred cows that can eat anything they care on any farm. And the police must always take sides with the elder. And then I heard during the course of the week, Baba Bulava describing us as a resilient nation. I'll come back to talking about this resilience when I speak about awakening the defeated. But it was in that week, and I urge you to go find it. He concluded that with some Bulabish language that I guess only he again would understand. But the important thing is that what you think is your capacity to endure has been labeled resilience. They have become used to suffering. But again, I will wait until I get to the main body of my lecture this morning. But the important thing is to give you a picture of how you are seen by those who are ruining your country and your lives. You are resilient. People who are used to suffering. Oh yeah, they were sharing pants in Kano. Or I've been offered context for the pants. I was told there was some local ruckus between the governor and Kwakonso. The important thing for me is the imagery it presents. Our situation has descended to the point where pants have become something to be shared as part of political gratification and symbols. Pants. Is anything remaining holy? But then, that was the week that was. But before we start the week that is, it would be most irresponsible of me if I do not take the time to acknowledge that today is Raph's birthday. You may ask, who is Raph? I'll tell you who Raph is. Raph is the gentleman who runs my hold office today. Raph came to me over 15 years ago. I'm not sure, I'm horrible with date and time, but I know I've been acquainted with Raph for over 15 years. He has been one of the very best of human beings I have had to work with. And if all friends have been anywhere near as faithful as Raph, I would have had a much easier life than the one that I am currently living. So it's Raph's birthday today. Mr. Raph Nwoke is a fantastic human being, paragon of integrity, loyalty. Name the virtue. Raph personifies it. So please, if you know Raph, if you know me at all, you will know Raph. Help me wish him, pray him a happy birthday. God bless you all. So, good morning, everybody. Welcome to this morning's broadcast. I titled it Awakening the Defeated. Now, let me confess that I was going to take the day off and just let the lessons of the last 3 weeks percolate. But there is something that has been planted in my head by a dear friend of mine. You know him on social media as Jonathan Buhari Tinubu, Obina. Obina, it is that constantly uses this phrase, a people born defeated. Every time he looks at our situation, he will say, a people born defeated. Every time he said that thing, it needles me. It needles me because it almost leaves me despondent about the chances of Nigerians ever rising up against their enslavers. Because he keeps saying we're a people born defeated. So, in the last 3 weeks, as I have preached the duty to rebel, part 1, preached the duty to rebel, part 2, preached the duty to reconstitute, I noticed a dwindling of numbers in relation to viewership. And I kept pondering the messages I believe have been most germane in recent times. So I started asking myself, what is going on? And I realized that our people are used to being titillated. If they are told, oh, let's go on the street to protest, that titillates them. It provokes discussions for and obviously against. It catches attention when you declare protests. But when you impose duties and you clarify it, it imposes a duty to use the brain and the imagination. And you find very quickly that there is a disconnect somewhere. This is not to downplay the number of those who do understand the issues, but we must also understand that this is not intended as an elitist thing. It has to percolate downwards if it is ever going to work. So I started pondering what Obina has been saying for some time, a people born defeated. So I told myself, if a people are born defeated, and you have to awaken them, you have to awaken them to the duty to rebel, the duty to reconstitute. I had spoken to these at other times, and I had defined that duty earlier on as being that the revolutionary must take on in order to awaken the indifferent. I didn't term it as the defeated. I said the indifferent, that the revolutionary must find the key to the mobilization of the indifferent. And a huge number of our population are indifferent. Indeed, one of the archbishop of the Nigerian ruling class, Rotimi Amechi, has a famous point that he has made repeatedly, very provocative point. Rotimi Amechi says, until we stone them, they will not change. That he's a member too. And yes, he is a member, but he then proceeds to say, but Nigerians will not do anything. I have had occasion to tell him once that the day Nigerians would do something, he would be the first to take flight. But has he been lying? He'd been in the public space talking about how we will not do anything for years, and we haven't done anything. Charlie Boy came with our mumu don't do, but apparently our mumu just begin to mature. So I said to myself, there is a need to go deeper and have a clear understanding of how we got into a situation where we would appear to have been born defeated. Because to awaken the defeated, you must get them to the point where they recognize that they have internalized defeat and have become accepting of the evil that has overtaken them. I found that one of the first things that happens before a people may be defeated is that there is a death of the possible. There is an absence of alternative imagination. I will explain. Every Nigerian given to thinking has agreed that our constitution, that fraud, is not working. All of us, if you have any capacity for rational thinking, for years, Nigerians have agreed that this system is not working. But have you noticed that we've never discussed viable alternatives in a progressive fashion? We've never been compelled to look at an alternative to what we have consistently complained is bad. Some of us have talked about these alternatives and we've been treated as fringe elements. But as a collective, as a critical mass, we have never talked about any alternative. So there is a depth of possibilities. We've become completely blind to the alternatives that might be available to us. Let me explain something to you. Religion, above all things, is responsible for this. I would explain myself. What is religion? To bind the mind. That is the meaning of religion, to force you to think in structured pathways. What we call education is equally the same. Western education comes with a curriculum. This curriculum runs from kindergarten to university. As long as you stay within the structured pathways, you cannot think outside of the norm as prescribed by the governing system. My generation is an outlier and we're dying out. And why do I call us outliers? We lived through an educational system that allowed us access to material outside the established norm. Education itself had not become weaponized by the local masters. Yes, we were taught advantages of colonialism, which is part of how the structures, the pathways that have been designed constricts your imagination. But imagine a situation where the educational system is deliberately weaponized to make you ignorant. And then the little that is taught is meant to remove your capacity to think of alternatives. When I was learning history in secondary school, when I was learning government as a subject in secondary school, I was taught the constitutional development of Nigeria. I was taught the constitutional history of Nigeria. That is why it is easy for me to identify the fact that Decree 24 of 1999 is a fraud, because I had the benefit of learning how constitutions are made. I also had the benefit of learning how the 1960 Constitution came about, how the 1963 Republican Constitution came about, what happened in the lead up to the 1979 Constitution, and how Obasanjo thwarted the expressed will of the Constituent Assembly that had recommended a return to the parliamentary system and the regions. Let me be very clear about something. The benefit of the education that my generation received has meant that we retain the capacity to refute the lies that the system has today institutionalized in its weaponization of ignorance against the people. The weaponization of ignorance had two levels. In my own time, ignorance was weaponized by denying some people access to education. In this generation, it has been layered upon. Not only are people denied access to education, somebody is graduated with a first class and is pressing nail fund. That is the extent of his indoctrination by the education that he has received. If that boy had gone to university in my generation, number one, there would have been no nail fund. Such was the level of the consciousness of students that we would protest if you added a single kobo, a single naira to our school fees, talk less of you presuming or daring to commercialize education and then make loan available to the children of the poor, whom you have deliberately impoverished. So you have a situation now where what I have talked about for years, the feudalization of Nigeria has happened without anybody telling you you are being feudalized. So what has happened is that the mind of the people has been captured. The imagination, which is the seat of human creativity, has been damaged. Our capacity to speak to alternatives, grasp alternatives, and understand the imperatives of demanding these changes lost. So people defeated. But when you look at these things in this manner, you understand that for the people to become dead to the possibilities and the absence of alternatives, one of the things that happens to them very quickly is that the ceiling is the floor. A people are born, an entire generation that have no aspirations to better, because nobody has shown them that it can be much better than it is. So they are born. The father is a megad. The extent of his aspiration is to also have a good oga if his father has a good oga, or he finds solace in the few avenues that the state has left open: terrorism, banditry, 419, prostitution, drugs, a life of crime and criminality. The floor is the ceiling. There is nothing to aspire to because he sees nothing around him to inspire hope. Look, how can it be that we build a society, thank you, Hakim, where a child is born and his role models are the Agberos. He wants to be MC Mushroom Pikin tomorrow. He wants to be an Ajagungbale tomorrow, because those are the only people he sees who rose from his own type to become anything of substance in the society. In African American society, for a long time, the role models were the athletes, the musician, the rapper, the rap culture came in, the gangsters. Those were the people who inspired the rest. Who are the people inspiring those for whom the floor have become the ceiling? Musicians? How many musicians really are going to blow? So there is a ready group waiting. There are ready groups waiting to recruit those for whom the floor have become the ceiling. Agbero, cults, criminal gangs, political thugs, terrorists, Fulani bandits, terrorists, religious extremists. Any wonder that the Nigerian army cannot find recruits, but there is an abundance of recruits for terrorists, bandits, agberos, and what have you. Is it by accident that you have almost 30 million children roaming the streets without any education? I'm explaining to you so that you understand exactly where we are as a collective. Today, the only people who have abundance of recruits are the different groups responsible for the destruction of Nigeria. If you are in the Niger Delta, you are looking at Anteta and Tompolo. You're looking at Fatso, Asari, the Fatso. You're looking at them. Those are the role models. Those are the role models. Because that is what the society honors. That is who we have become. How do you expect these ones to be awakened? How? If I'm lucky, I have 10,000 of you watching the video. If I'm lucky, I wouldn't advertise for anyone to come listen to me. Oh, please come and see what I've written. I'll see what I have. No, I'm not going to do that. I am not going to do that. But look all around you. Stupid things that should not concern or preoccupy us. You find 1 million plus views. How do I go about the business of awakening a people who are deliberate about being asleep? I've spoken multiple times about somnambulists, those who are sleepwalking, and that is what has happened to the most of us. We're sleepwalking. People have inherited stress. Look at when you bat somebody in an environment that is already hostile to his existence. How do you tell this person that there are possibilities in him and that we can turn things around if we all move together in the same direction? How? You have a situation where, have you ever been in a police barrack? I know they are demolishing them all over the place in the name of redevelopment. I doubt any policeman will ever live in most of the ones in the urban centers that they are redeveloping. But the point is this. Have you seen the institutionalized poverty that is all around all of us? Save for the oases of sanity that some of us live in. Have you seen the hostile poverty in which people are born, in which they live on a day-to-day basis? Have you seen the schools they are attending, the clinics government claim to build? Have you seen the extreme violence by which? So you're dealing with a people who already believe themselves to have lost. The floor is the ceiling. Look, we have a situation right now on our hands where the helplessness is learned. Nobody teaches any history of resistance. That's why they must always find ways to minimize the works of those who went against the grain and did great things. Have you seen anyone, the beneficiaries of Abiola's sacrifice, have you seen any one of them falling over themselves to immortalize him? Yes, declared a public holiday, but every last thing they do on the day remains hollow performances. What about the intelligence? Look, we are in a situation right now where we must tell ourselves that we have to stop being prisoners of our past and become the architect of our future. Robin Sharma said that. That's not me. Sounds very clever, but that wasn't me. He said, stop being a prisoner of your past. Become the architect of your future. Now, if we agree that the bulk of Nigerians right now were born defeated, question is, how do you awaken the defeated? Because let me assure you, if I lament from now till kingdom come, if I do not awaken the bulk of Nigerians, if we, all of us, do not work assiduously as one to awaken our compatriots, all of us will walk into the night with chains on our wrists. That is the reality that we are faced with. One of the first things we need to do is to restore the memory of the people. They must be reminded of who they are. Who are we? We have to reclaim the narrative. That is why I continually speak to you about the Nigeria that was. I speak to the Nigeria that was even before I was born. That's why I always speak to the foundational agreement. Before somebody will recreate the truth in the fashion that they have attempted with the multiple lies that have been institutionalized in Nigeria, it is critical that we be reconnected with our past. It wasn't always like this. There was once a country that had an educational system that trained the likes of me. It wasn't perfect. It could have been and should have been much better. Obviously, it was not designed for the benefit of Nigerians, but it produced people who could think on their own. I like to think I think on my own. So there is a need to reconnect us. So you tolerate me when I keep telling you about the feudalization of our country, the destruction of the foundational agreements, the need to return the past in order to reconnect with a future that makes sense. You will pardon me when I do that, but it is critical that we continue to do that because our best days remain in the past because that was the point where we departed from sanity. So I'll continue reminding you of where you're coming from because Yoruba says that if you don't know where you are going, you must know where you're coming from. Nigeria would appear to be lost in this season. Also, I've not forgotten, I must never forget where we're coming from. We have to move from apathy to agency. Let me explain that. Apathy is rightly hand in Nigeria. When the people were as connected as we all were in 2023, and you must remember that in 2023, we were coming from the tragedy of the Lekki massacre. We were coming from the tragedy of the NSAS riots, protest, massacre, riots. That's where we were coming from. And after the massacre, after we had midwifed the process of the tribunal, may God bless the memory of Sherubaon, Ademola Adesina Ogunlana, Anayo Ademelua fought assiduously. There were nights that they slept in my office in Lekki. After we got the pronouncement from the tribunal, we shifted gears and started convincing the people to register to vote. Mahmoud, the Yahoo, Yakubu, promised at the time. Okoye, all of INEC, deployed propaganda to assure everybody that we would have free and fair elections. And that was the basis of engagement. We connected the people, and apathy that had plagued the 2019 election disappeared. The people reconnected, registered in record numbers. INEC began to sabotage its process from that point. Started refusing to give people their voters' cards. They were that scared because apathy disappeared. With the disappearance of apathy, it became easy to see very clearly the many lies that Nigeria had told itself. The lie of a monolithic North disappeared. The lie of an unbeatable Tinubu in Lagos disappeared. The lies that Nigerians do not want competence, it disappeared. Hope was rekindled. Hope is a dangerous thing when people are planning to rig elections. Hope is the most dangerous ingredient in the hand of the revolutionary. The apathy you're seeing in the lead up to 2027, some people will point at me and say that, but you too, you are causing the apathy by saying that there will be no election. I'm saying that as a reflection of the truth that I am saying. It is for those who are contesting the election to connect the people with hope in a manner that leaves those who are in power and looking to rig incapable of finding the will to do so in the face of the unshakable hope of the people. That is up to the political system. It is not for me to offer false illusions and be telling people to go and vote. Go and vote for who? To vote for what? So I'm not selling apathy. I'm selling reality. I'm telling the political class who are interested in removing Tinubu, if you are looking to remove Tinubu, go and do the work of connecting the people, because you cannot awaken the defeated if they are in apathy. You have to give them hope to awaken them. In the absence of hope, you cannot awaken the defeated. The reality is that the Nigerian people have been comprehensively defeated by what has happened to them, the weaponization of ignorance, the weaponization of poverty, and the weaponization of religion. All these have worked together to assure that the Nigerian people are largely defeated. And anybody who is going to awaken them must understand that he has to fight the apathy. You fight apathy with hope. They have to be given hope. But hope is not enough. Hope must arise from common purpose. You must build vision in the place of hunger, because if all they have is anger, it becomes a destructive force. That is when the duty to reconstitute becomes important, because when you awaken them, they become hopeful. In the absence of a plan, what happens is hunger. Anger that is not stepped down to specific actions, which should have happened with the plan to reconstitute, which should be the basis of awakening. Anger becomes chaos. It births anarchy. Anarchy gives the system the opportunity to reinvent. This is where the duty to reconstitute must always stay in the consciousness of those who are in pursuit of change. Put your reconstitution of the system on the day after. Put it on the table. You have a duty to reconstitute that precedes the duty or is an adjunct to the duty to rebel. There is always going to be the person who will set themselves on fire. Muhammad Rida it was who said that it is useless to set oneself on fire for the blind to see. He was correct. It is very, very useless to set yourself on fire for the blind to see. But there must always be an exemplar. There must always be an exemplar. In the political space today, speaking the language of politics, there is an exemplar, and have no need to name anyone. You know who your exemplar is. There is an exemplar. But remember, in 2023, I was part of Peter Obi's campaign spokespersons group. And I remember saying at the time that he represented the last opportunity for the system to peacefully transit power. That was in 2023. We did everything that any reasonable political collective should have done. We did everything. And he won. But of course, Bulaba is in power today. I have deliberately taken a back seat because I actually do not believe that the political system will provide the change we're looking for. I have my doubts, very serious ones, that the coming change will be peaceful. But change we must. And I think it is critical that the thinking beings remaining in Nigeria must take on the duty to explain the imperatives of the Nigerian revolution to the common persons on the street. Steve Biko it was who said the primary weapon of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. It is time to weaponize your minds. You weaponize your minds with knowledge, deliberate knowledge, not beer parlor talk or gossip. You read if you need to read. One of the tests I'll prescribe for you is the one that I've already made available for free download. The Imperative of the Nigerian Revolution. Go to deliverultimate.com, download it for free. There is a need for us to organize. We have to awaken the defeated. Most of us are. Some of you listening to me are just as defeated. And I'm very sorry if I appear to be picking on some of my brothers, but most of you who live in the diaspora, you left because you accepted that we have been defeated. I call you the wiser ones because at least you left. Find a chance. There must always be a remnant to be preserved. You guys are the ones that it has pleased God to give the brain to flee the mess we created. But the reality is that at some point, and I believe it's becoming very obvious to all of us, especially those of you who are living in Trump's land, the many of you who went into the Gulf Arab states to find your living. There will be no place like home, but home is gradually being lost on a daily basis. We need to find the grace not only to rebel, but to reconstitute. But none of that happens if we do not awaken those who have been defeated. And there are a lot. and people are focused on surviving. Those are the defeated. When all you do is think of what you eat, where you sleep, what you eat, when everything is about just surviving, I'm begging you, you have a duty to awaken the defeated. Thank you very much for your time today. Look forward to seeing you next week. God bless you all.